right, this is the next episode of True Wrestling Fan Discussions. This is going to be our premiere episode of the Monday Night Wars, where we're going to cover every episode of Monday Night Raw and Nitro from the point the Monday Night War started in 1995 up until the death of WCW in 2001. This is going to be a 5.5 year journey. I hope you're here. 5.5 years. I hope I'm still here.
I hope I'm still here.
Yeah. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Let's get into this long 288 episode commitment. It actually isn't bad, doing it, because going back and watching this one, I was so eager to go to watch the next one and the next one, because I forgot how interesting Monday Nitro was in the very beginning.
Oh yeah. Plus, it helps that it was only an hour.
1 hour.
So it's like everything is condensed, and it's like
Now, normally how we'll do this is we will compare both shows as they had their opening matches compared to Raw's opening match, and as we go down the list, we'll give our views and everything on it and tell you which one we thought was better. And of course, you guys can comment as well and let us know what you thought as well. It's funny that we're going to do the original Nitro and Monday Night Raw was not on the card. This week, September 4th, 1995. I think there was a dog show on USA Network.
It was either a dog show or tennis. I remember being annoyed as a kid, like there would be no Raw, and I'm like, the hell is this, man?
Because later on, they usually either did a Tuesday night Raw or they did a late 11 o'clock Eastern time.
I believe it was Thursday, and then there was some maybe on Friday or Saturday. There was a few episodes.
Yeah, or they did the late night Raw.
I don't remember Raw ever being on late night. Maybe it was. I just can't remember.
One time I stayed up and I regretted it because I was so exhausted the next day. But let's kick off Monday Nitro. Monday Nitro obviously is going to win this week because they've got no competition. Mm-hmm. But Mall of America, Minneapolis, Minnesota, the inaugural spot for this show.
The debut episode. They're going head to head with WWF.
Yeah, where the big boys play.
Yep.
You're going to hear this about 10,000 times over the next year that they're going to just throw this down your neck, down your throat.
Apparently, Bischoff didn't have very long to put this thing together. Like, as soon as he got the green light from Turner, he had to do it in within a few months. And so he was smart though, and he's like, he knew that week there was going to be no Raw, so he's like, let's go unopposed. That way, wrestling fans will just tune in and be like, oh, what's going on Nitro? They won't have to choose. Hopefully, you're going to retain some of those people. So it was smart.
And he did the perfect thing by bringing in a surprise to everybody.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And, a couple of video packages for wrestlers that he would be bringing in the following week. And so
the intro was good too, like with the special effects with the fire, the flames. It was high production value. Like it looked good. It looked official. For that being their first episode.
Yeah, considering how they ran most pay-per-views on their production budget, this feels like it blew that away.
But this is that because it's TNT, this is it's a big deal.
Yeah, and I remember Bischoff talking about on the Monday Night Wars documentary when Ted asked him, how can we compete with Vince McMahon? And he said he wasn't prepared for that question. And he said, well, give me prime time, 2 hours on Monday. Figure he'll never do that.
He gave him one. Later on, it's two, yeah.
It's two, and then it becomes three. But he figured, he goes, I gave you something. I know you're not going to do it, so I'm in the clear. And he goes,
he said, yeah.
Okay, give him TNT prime time. He's like, whoa. Well, Turner wanted to compete with Vince. This was the perfect way to do it. So here we go. The very first match on Monday Nitro with Eric Bischoff, Mongo McMichael making his debut
with commentary
with the little Chihuahua and Bobby the Brain Heenan. Mm-hmm. We get Flying Brian Pillman versus Jushin Thunder Liger.
Good way to open up the
absolutely
the high flyers.
Yep.
Get the crowd into it. Mall of America is really cool. It's a big mall. I don't know if it's still the biggest mall in America. I don't know. I know at one point it was. It was cool because the setup looked really nice in the middle of the mall. It was really well lit. Like it looked good. You had the crowd obviously there, people in the mall, so it was.
And then on the escalators nonstop.
Yeah, it was good. Good presentation. Yeah, it looked good.
It was, and the show itself was pretty good. This match didn't disappoint. It never did. A few years back when they fought for the light heavyweight title, and Flying Brian gets the pin and a roll up, and this is a fan favorite versus fan favorite match.
Right. Babyface Pillman is weird to me. I always remember
I like
heel and crazy, yeah, because he shakes his hand at the end of the match.
Yeah, and considering one of the last times these guys fought, Pillman wasn't shaking his hand.
Yeah.
But it was still good to see here the camaraderie between the two, the mutual respect. We got a great match. Yes, I got a little tired of Bischoff and Mongo with the big boys play and don't you watch that other thing, and Bischoff's telling them don't say it.
Oh, they got it. They got it.
I get a little
I don't know.
annoyed at it, but I understand why they're
You gotta
doing it.
understand why they're doing it. Who went over this
They
match? Who got the win? You gotta talk about who got the win.
Brian Pillman.
Brian Pillman goes, okay.
He rolled up Juice and Thunder Liger and got the victory.
And then they shook hands.
Mm-hmm. So, and of course, they show earlier in the day Eric Bischoff interviewing the WCW champion Hulk Hogan.
Oh, Lord Jesus.
Pasta Mania. This is around the time where the fans were kind of getting a little tired of it.
Yeah, it was. The thing about Pasta Mania, like he didn't own those places. As a kid, I thought he actually owned it, but he licensed his name out. I think there was a few of them. I think they had a few locations, and they ran out of business, obviously. I wonder why.
But he's talking about Pasta Mania. Why? Because in the main event, Hulk Hogan will defend the title against Big Bubba Rogers.
The Big Boss Man.
Yep. Still way better in the cage, though.
WWF.
So now our next match on the card, because remember, this is only 1 hour. Technically, realistically, 45 minutes with the commercials. So they only had 3 matches on their initial one, but all 3 of them were good. The next match on the card was for the WCW United States title, the very first title defense ever on a Monday Nitro. Sting versus the Nature Boy Ric Flair. And it's funny because they started Nitro together and they ended Nitro together. So when we get to episode number 288, we'll be talking about them fighting. I'm sure there'll be another 50 or 60 Nitros where these guys are going to lock up, going forward, because they're always going to be combatants with each other. The interesting part about this match, besides the match, was the fact, and I knew about it. So the first thing I did when they went out and did that wide angle is I looked towards the entranceway, and here comes the guy in the white button-down shirt, Lex Luger.
Lex Luger, yeah, and which was a shock because everyone thought that he was still under contract, and they were able to keep this under wraps. Apparently, Luger flew himself out to Minnesota, stayed in the hotel until the last minute. And then WCW brought him in right before he was supposed to come out. That way it wouldn't get leaked. He had been basically procrastinating with WWF, like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sign. JJ Dillon was in charge of signings back then in WWF. He gets fired at some point after that. I don't know if it was because he couldn't retain Luger or what, but they didn't know. And he just signed with Bischoff. Yeah.
And technically this is the first, now this is the start of the jumping ship from Raw to Nitro, Nitro to Raw type thing. Luger was the very first person to do it.
But it was well done because nobody saw it coming. And
yes,
for those that don't know, it was Sting that convinced Bischoff to bring Lex Luger. Whatever it was lower than what he was making, but he eventually pays him a lot more. Like after he proves himself, he gets a very, very good contract.
Because Bischoff wasn't a fan of Luger's, but he did it. He talked to him as out of respect to Sting. And he tried to lowball him to the point where, well, I tried signing him. He wouldn't bite. I'm sorry. There's nothing else more I can do. And Luger just jumped on it. I guess
he's just miserable. He didn't want to be in WWF.
If you're Lex Luger, you look at the product in 1995 and look where you've been at.
He was going down.
Yeah, because nobody knew the direction except I thought after SummerSlam.
They had given up on him. So there was no direction. Like they had thrown him in the Allied Powers. Then he was kind of going into a feud with Diesel, it looked like.
That's why I thought it was going at the next In Your House.
Yeah, and so he's like, I gotta get out of here. So he went back.
Because then Bulldog turned, and then Luger comes out at SummerSlam, and Diesel hits him because he doesn't know who to trust.
Yeah, it was just bad. So it was good to see him show up here. I was surprised. I didn't see this live, but I remember my friend Peter told me the next day, he's like, Luger came out. I'm like, wait a minute, isn't he on WWF? He's like, no, he's in WCW now. I was like, wow, it's amazing.
Yeah, I watched this and I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, so it was good.
I'm like, I just saw you.
What is he doing here? What is he doing?
Get this guy out of here! And of course, at first they wouldn't say his name, as to say that he's invading, not Scott Hall invading, but just invading. And he goes back down the ramp, after Sting and Flair lock eyes with him. And they continue their match. And the match was really good. Arn Anderson came down because now he's got the feud going with Ric Flair. he gets in the ring. He broke the hold and attacked Ric Flair. This match pretty much ended in a no contest. And then, of course, Flair and him fought to the back, and then Anderson came back out, to address Sting. But at the same time this is happening, out of nowhere, here comes Scott Norton jumping the rail, talking to Mongo, wanting a match. And then out of nowhere, here comes the Macho Man Randy Savage.
Challenging the match right then and there.
So next week, next week on Nitro, on the next Nitro, it'll be Savage versus Norton. So we've got a lot of chaos and stuff going on here on the very first one. So, and then of course after all the confusion and all the melee and everything, they showed a video package for two individuals that would be making their debuts. Sabu, which I didn't really think worked out, and obviously he didn't in WCW. It wasn't his type.
He wasn't there that long.
No, he wasn't, and then he quickly jumped ship and went to ECW, where he thrived there. And a repackaged for like the 40th time Michael Wall Street or Mike Rotunda, and he made an IRS. He made a mention of an IRS, in which I thought was funny, because by this point the $1 Million Corporation is gone.
Wasn't he VK? Didn't he become VK at some
VK
point?
Wall Street after that.
First he was Mike Wall Street, right? And he was VK.
Just constantly re-gimmicked, and I wish they would have just brought
Wasn't
him back
he
as
NWO?
Mike Rotunda. Yes. I feel like everybody was NWO.
What was he? What was his name? Do you remember NWO?
Was he Mr. Wall Street? Mr. Wall Street, yeah.
Jesus. Anyway.
Can't keep up with him. I thought, honestly, if they were going to bring him back, just bring him back as Mike Rotunda.
They should have.
Everybody
they
knows
knew him
in NWA, WCW as
Mike Rotunda, yeah. Well, we're not
you're going to insult people's intelligence by saying, no, his name's Michael Wall Street. Okay, he's Michael Wall Street.
Like Terry, what's his name?
The tailor-made man.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Anyway.
So our main event on the card is for the WCW World Championship. Hulk Hogan defending the title against Big Bubba Rogers.
Well, what Bubba Rogers did to get a world title shot is anybody's guess, but apparently
lack of talent.
It was Hogan wanted to work with him because he was familiar with him. He's like, oh, well, it's live Nitro, and I need somebody I can trust, and I worked with him in WWF, and blah blah blah. Okay.
And during this match, they had done a promo. I don't know. I think it was either during or after it that they showed for War Games, where they showed that Vader would be on Hogan's team, but we all know that Vader, so that he would be replaced by Lex Luger
because this guy whipped his ass. Paul Orndorff whipped his ass in sandals backstage.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So at this time, this is when Hogan's feuding with the Dungeon. That's all that stuff is going on with the Dungeon.
Mm-hmm. No, this was a typical. I'll do a side suplex on you. Oh, I can't pin you. You're gonna Hulk up on me. Big boot pin, boom, bada boom.
You know what I felt like? I mean, I don't know this offhand. I'm just guessing. It felt like Hogan. I shouldn't say Hogan, but although I would assume that Hogan's in charge of his own match, I think he probably says, "All right, let's go home early. Let's just finish this match early," because they had so much more time afterwards. Or maybe that was planned because they had to do the stuff with Luger. I just felt like there was so much time remaining.
Like all of a sudden they just rushed the match.
That's what it felt like. I could be wrong. Maybe it's because it's so condensed. Because they only had an
thought
hour.
They were running out of time, so they quickly ended it.
Because they only had an hour, they're probably like, okay, boom, 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 boom. But yeah, Hogan wins.
Yeah. And then here comes the Dungeon of Doom, all heading to the ring. So then out comes Sting and Savage.
And then they just beat their asses.
Yep. And then Lex Luger shows up, and then him and Hogan almost hit each other.
Where you've been.
And I've beaten who you've beaten. Wait a minute. Hold the phone there, Luger. Wait, you beat the Blue Brothers. I don't think Hogan beat the Blue Brothers. No. he didn't beat that 95 roster.
No. But watching this, what I was thinking about? It was interesting because when you look at it from this perspective as a WWF fan, I'm like, we got Hulk Hogan, and then we got the guy who Vince tried to make into the next Hulk Hogan and failed. And now they're going head to head, and they were in WWF for a very short time together in '93. Because as Hogan's only there for a little while, and when Lex Luger's the narcissist, they don't cross paths. I can't remember them ever crossing paths. And then he leaves, and then all of a sudden, Lex Luger's the American superhero.
Yeah, the Lex Express.
So now they're going head to head, but it was actually pretty cool. I kind of wanted to see Hogan versus Luger at some point, and
we're gonna get it.
Yeah. And then Sting was there too, which was cool because that's his best friend. So Sting is there trying to calm down. Macho Man comes in.
And then Savage is there.
Yeah.
We've got a lot going on here, a lot of egos in this ring here, and like you said, I love that. I've been where you've been, and
Yeah,
I've
yeah, yeah.
beaten who you've beaten,
And
and I'm
Hogan's
tired of
mentioned,
playing with kids.
yeah, yeah. And Hogan was mentioning WWF without saying the name too.
Yeah,
Without saying the
yeah.
name.
He goes, I want to get it on where the big boys play, and I'm
Yeah.
like, oh God, he said it.
Well, they told him to.
I know.
They probably Dusty was like whispering before you go out there, big boys.
Yeah,
Don't forget.
I'm tired of playing with kids.
It was fine.
Well,
It was good. I thought this was a great.
whatever.
I thought this was a great opening episode for Nitro.
I
thought
think
it
it
was
had to be
good.
to be successful.
Yeah, I thought it was good pace. I thought it was fine. Unopposed,
Let's just
obviously.
let's just put it like this: if Monday Night Raw was on this night, hands down, I would have had Nitro beating it,
Probably just because of the Hogan Luger thing, and even
and the way the matches were and the
yeah,
way
yeah, yeah,
they executed it.
yeah, yeah. It was actually live, obviously.
Yeah.
So
So we'll see next week when we cover the next episode number 2. We will have Monday Night Raw, and
yeah,
we will be comparing the two of them, how they started their show, how they ended their show, and who we think is the overall winner of that night.
yep, every Monday we're going to be doing that. So
There's not necessarily mean we're gonna 83 weeks in a row we're gonna say that Nitro won. We're not gonna. I know I'm not.
I don't know. I don't.
Maybe
When we get there,
maybe.
when we get there, we get there because I haven't seen those episodes in years. So
It's going to be a long ride.
yeah, but it's going to be fun.
Yes,
All right. Well, you guys let us know what you think. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you guys soon.
Take care.